After your last lesson, I expect that you understand the properties of matrices, the different terminology with regard to matrices, and what makes two matrices equal. We are now going to look at computation with matrices. We'll start with adding two matrices together. The absolute number one rule with regard to adding matrices is that you can only add two matrices that are the same size. And your answer, or your resultant matrix, will also be the same size. So here I've got a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 2. Because they are the same, I can add them, and my answer will be a 2 by 2. And it is as simple as this. 3 plus 7 is equal to 10. Negative 8 plus a negative 5 is equal to negative 13. Negative 4 plus positive 10, is positive 6. 6 plus a negative 6 is 0. This can be done in your calculator. It's similar to what you did with determinants, the way that you input the two matrices, only rather than clicking determinant, you select matrix A, you punch in a plus sign, and you select matrix B. I will show you how to do this when we move further on in the lesson, but do understand adding matrices can be done on your calculator. Subtracting two matrices has the same rules. You can only subtract two matrices that are the same size. So we've got a 3 by 1 and a 3 by 1, which means I can subtract them, and my answer will be a 3 by 1. 9 minus 18 is negative 9. Negative 3 minus 12 is negative 15. 6 minus a negative 6, remember, so minus a negative is plus a positive, is positive 12. This process is what's called scalar multiplication. Meaning that we're taking a matrix and we're multiplying it by some scale factor, in this case 3. Your answer is going to be the same size as the only matrix that's there. So this one will be a 2 by 2. And what you do is you take your scale, negative 3, and you multiply it by every single element in the matrix. So negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. Negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12. Negative 3 times 0 is 0. This is what's called matrix multiplication, meaning that we are actually multiplying this matrix by this matrix when we calculate A times B. So I will rewrite it. Now, matrix multiplication is not the same as addition and subtraction. The first thing you have to do when you're looking at matrix multiplication is you have to write down the size of each matrix. So this first one is a 2 by 3. And the second one is a 2 by 2. Now, when determining whether or not two matrices can be multiplied, you are going to look at the two middle numbers. If the two middle numbers are the same value, they will be able to be multiplied. If they are different values, you cannot multiply them. So taking a look, we've got 3 and 2. 3 and 2 are not the same, so you cannot calculate AB. So let's see if we can calculate BA. If I write down the size of the matrix, I've got a 2 by 2, and I've got a 2 by 3. When I circle those middle terms, they are the same, so I can do this multiplication. The next thing I look at are these outer terms. My answer should be a 2 by 3 matrix. Now this is quite an involved process. You start with the first row and the first column. So you say 4 times 3 plus 1 times 1. And that answer goes in the first spot. You do that again with the second column. 4 times negative 4 plus 1 times 0. That's negative 16. And then you do the third column. 4 times 5 plus 1 times negative 6. So 20 minus 6 is 14. Same process. Now we use the second row. So negative 3 times 3 plus 8 times 1. So that's negative 9 plus 8, negative 1. Do the same thing. Negative 3 times negative 4 plus 8 times 0. That's positive 12. And then finally, negative 3 times 5 plus 8 times negative 6. So that's negative 15 minus 48, which is negative 63. Now, as I said, this process is pretty involved, so what I'll now show you is how to do this on your calculator. So let's take a look at how we multiply these two matrices together. First, we need to input the matrix information. So we go to our matrix menu, arrow over to edit. And this first matrix is a 2 by 3 matrix. So we enter the information. And matrix B was a 2 by 2. And remember, we were multiplying matrix B times matrix A. So I select matrix B, enter, times matrix A, enter, and there's my solution, which is exactly what we got in the last slide. Just for comparison purposes, we can do matrix A times matrix B, and we get an error. So if you are trying to multiply two matrices together and you get an error, that means that those matrices cannot be multiplied. Okay, so this word problem is actually pretty involved because it's got a lot of matrices happening. So we're building 3 different kinds of houses. We've got 8 models, A, B, and C, and they come in a colonial style or a ranch style. We've got everything shown here, so main materials used depends on the style of the house. The amounts of those are shown in matrix Q, and then matrix R tells you the cost that you're dealing with. So the first thing that they're asking is, what is the total cost of materials for all houses of each model? In order to figure out a problem like this, really what you should be thinking about is what kinds of things are aligning. So if you look at these matrices, I've got colonial and ranch going on here, and colonial and ranch going on here. So I know that I'm going to need to multiply these two matrices together. And what that's going to tell me is how much of each material I'm going to need for each model. This is not something that I'm going to do on paper. I am going to do this in my calculator. But looking at the fact that this is a 3 by 2 and this is a 2 by 4, what I should recognize is that my solution is going to be a 3 by 4. So when you think about, well, what are those 3 and the 4? The 3 are going to be your models, and the 4 will be your materials: concrete, lumber, brick, and shingles. So that's going to tell you how much of each one of these you're going to need, how much of each material you'll need for each model. You should have put this into your calculator. If you haven't, please do this multiplication now. Once you've got this and we're looking for the cost, well, I've got the amounts of material I need here. I've got cost here. So remember, this information and this information will go together. So you'll then multiply this matrix by this matrix. And since you're multiplying a 3 by 4 and a 4 by 1, your answer is going to be a 3 by 1. And that 3 by 1 is going to tell you for each model the cost per unit. So here's what those two matrices look like, and this will be the cost. Now, when we need to find out how much of each kind of material to order, what we're going to do is take what's called a column sum. We're just going to add each one of those values together, because this is the cost of concrete for Model A and the cost of concrete for Model B. Does that make sense? So once we take that row sum, what we will find out is that we need, let's see, 5,500 units of concrete, 200 units of lumber, 2,000 units of shingles, and 300 units of bricks. And we can call that matrix T. And then finally, the total product, or the total cost of everything, really is when we take this matrix and we multiply it by matrix R that was listed on the last page. So matrix R, I'll write that down. That's the one that was 20, 180, 60, 25. So when we multiply this matrix by the cost, it's going to give us the entire budget for this entire subdivision, and that value is $273,500. You probably will not have a problem quite this detailed on a test, but maybe only one or two parts of it, so do make sure that you are writing complete sentences for a word problem.